All right, let's talk about something that feels like the ultimate backyard upgrade, a hot tub. It's that symbol of pure relaxation, right? Your own personal escape. But here's the thing, turning that dream into a safe reality, well, that involves a lot more than just filling it with water.
I mean, you can just picture it, can't you? Sinking into that warm, bubbly water after a really long day, all the stress just melting away. It's your own little private retreat, steps from your back door. And that vision is amazing, and it's totally achievable. But to get there safely, we've got to talk about what's actually powering that dream.
And there it is, 240 volts of pure electricity. And it's coursing through a system that is, by its very nature, holding hundreds of gallons of water that you are sitting in. Yeah, this is not your coffee maker. This is a high-power electrical installation where the stakes are, incredibly high. So it's time for a little reality check. A hot tub is basically a complex electrical system cleverly disguised as a luxury item. And that mix, that high voltage right next to a whole lot of water, is exactly why you just can't treat this like any other purchase. That dream of an oasis can turn into a serious nightmare if the electrical side of things isn't handled with absolute expert precision.
Let me put this into perspective for you. A normal outlet in your house, that's about 15 amps and 120 volts. A hot tub needs its own dedicated 50 amp, 240 volt circuit. That is a massive leap in power. We're talking about the same kind of power an electric stove needs. So you can't just plug this thing in and call it a day. Nope. It needs its own heavy-duty, protected highway of power running straight from your electrical panel.
So how do you make this safe? Okay, this right here, this is the hero of the entire story, the GFCI. It stands for Ground Fault Circuit Interrupter, and it is your absolute, non-negotiable lifeline. What it does is constantly monitor the flow of electricity. If it senses even the tiniest little imbalance, like if electricity is going somewhere it shouldn't, say into the water, bam, it shuts the power off in a fraction of a second. It is, without a doubt, the single most important safety device in this whole setup.
So, what's really at stake if this goes wrong? Well, the consequences kind of fall into two big buckets. On the money side of things, a DIY job or a shoddy installation can void your hot tub's warranty, just like that. And if something bad happens, your insurance company might just deny the claim. Plus, if the wiring isn't right, the whole unit has to work harder, which jacks up your energy bills. But then there's the safety side, and honestly, this is the terrifying part. The risk of electrocution is very real. Using wires that are too small can cause them to overheat and literally melt, creating a huge fire hazard.
And look, this isn't just some hypothetical problem I'm talking about. This happens all the time. People try to save a few bucks, or maybe they hire a contractor who isn't a specialist, and they end up with failed inspections, seriously dangerous wiring, and a whole lot of regret. It's a real common issue.
Okay, enough with the scary stuff. Let's shift gears and talk about the solution, because there is a right way to do this. There's a professional's playbook that certified experts follow to make sure everything is safe, everything's up to code, and it's all built to last. It's all about following a methodical, expert process.
You see, a real professional's work breaks down into these three crucial stages. First, they come out and do a site assessment. They look at your electrical panel, they calculate the power needs, they map out the safest route for all the wiring. Then comes the actual installation, where they follow strict electrical codes to the letter. And finally, and this is key, they test everything meticulously and they coordinate the official city inspection to certify the work. There are no shortcuts here.
So when we say code-compliant installation, what does that actually mean? What's happening behind the scenes? What are the specific parts and pieces that make the difference between a pro job and a really hazardous one? This right here is the anatomy of a safe installation. It all starts with that dedicated 50 amp GFCI breaker we talked about. Then you need a weatherproof emergency disconnect switch that's located within sight of the tub. The wiring itself? It has to be number 6 gauge copper wire. That's a specific thickness for a reason, to handle all that power safely without overheating. And that wire is then protected inside special conduits, either buried underground or connected to the tub with liquid-tight fittings so no water gets in. And maybe most importantly, a pro handles all the permits and inspections, making sure the work is legally signed off on as safe.
But believe it or not, the electrical work is only half the battle. We also have to think about the simple physics of moving this thing. We're talking about an object that can easily weigh over 1,000 pounds, and that's before you add a single drop of water.
Yeah, getting that huge thing into your backyard is a serious logistical puzzle.
A professional team doesn't just show up and start shoving. They plan the route carefully to avoid wrecking your lawn or your fences. They use specialized gear like heavy-duty dollies and sleds. And once it's in place, the tub has to be perfectly level. Even a tiny tilt can put a ton of stress on the frame and cause it to crack over time. And sometimes, if there's just no clear path, the only option is to bring in a crane to lift the entire hot tub right over your house. This is a job for a coordinated, experienced crew for sure.
And just when you thought it couldn't get more complex, let's add another layer, the weather. In a place that gets really cold, for instance, all the electrical components have to be officially rated for temperatures as low as -40 degrees. See, if you use standard outdoor parts, they can get brittle and just fail in a deep freeze, which creates a huge safety risk. A pro knows to use materials that are built to handle the absolute worst conditions your climate can throw at them.
So, you're ready to make it happen. You're ready to hire someone. How do you make sure you're getting a true professional and not just some handyman with a truck and a roll of wire? You need to become an informed customer. And this checklist, this is your guide to doing just that.
Let's run through this, because every single question here is vital. First, Master Electrician isn't just a fancy title. It's a specific, high-level certification. Don't settle for less. Next, ask if they handle all the permits. When they say yes, it means they're accountable to a city inspector who is going to double-check their work. Third, always ask for proof of insurance. If a crane is lifting a 1,000-pound tub over your roof, you want to be absolutely sure they're covered. A final walkthrough is also crucial. It shows they stand by their work and they'll make sure you know how to operate everything safely. And finally, get a transparent quote. This protects you from nasty surprises, like finding out halfway through the job that you suddenly need a super expensive electrical panel upgrade.
You know, in the end, it all comes back to this. You're making this investment for relaxation, for a little peace of mind. And by understanding the risks and knowing what a truly professional, safe installation looks like, you can make sure your backyard dream doesn't come with some hidden, dangerous reality. So the real question is your plan built for genuine peace of mind?